All right, so you want to know more about becoming a Fiscal Affairs Policy Officer.
That's the spirit.
Hmm.
Not just crunching numbers.
You've been digging into RoleCatcher's guides and website.
Trying to see if this is the dream job for you.
That's what this deep dive is for.
Is more than just numbers.
Yeah, I was surprised by some of what this job entails.
This is about how governments use money.
It impacts people's lives.
Spending and, yeah, taxes too.
Big responsibility.
Absolutely huge impact.
Okay, so not just for math whizzes then.
Not at all,
It
actually.
seemed like a lot, even for someone who likes numbers.
It's a blend.
Like, what all is involved?
Analyzing economic data for one.
Okay, sure.
Crafting policy recommendations.
Okay, I can see that.
But the really interesting part is getting people on board.
Really? Convincing people what needs to happen.
Yeah, getting people on board with your ideas.
Wow, yeah, that's huge.
For sure.
Because what good is a brilliant tax strategy if no one gets it, let
Exactly.
alone implements it?
That's the thing.
This guide really emphasizes collaboration.
Working with stakeholders, for sure.
Wow, so who else?
Government agencies, even international organizations.
All to bring those policies to life.
Yep.
This isn't some solitary number-crunching gig, then.
Nope.
So, listener, are you someone who thrives on teamwork and building consensus?
It's key.
Because that seems crucial here.
Totally.
Speaking of crucial, let's talk about what it takes to actually be a fiscal affairs policy officer.
Right.
The guide lays out some serious pros and cons.
The potential paycheck is definitely a pro.
Yeah, definitely saw that high earning potential.
But remember, that comes with some weight, too. Your recommendations could impact millions in revenue or spending.
Wow, really?
Yeah, talk about pressure.
Whoa, high stakes.
For sure.
And long hours, it seems to match that high earning potential.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's how it goes.
Makes sense with all that responsibility.
Especially with how much the economic landscape changes.
It's always changing these days.
The guide really stresses the intellectually stimulating nature of the work, though.
Okay, so not for someone who wants a predictable 9 to 5. Got it.
Not really.
But you're constantly learning,
Always.
staying ahead of the curve on new regulations.
For sure.
Economic trends.
Tons of research to stay on top of.
It's funny, the guide actually ranks reading comprehension incredibly high in the skills section.
Really? Higher than the math skills?
Higher than straight-up math skills.
Wow, no way.
You're kidding. I'm not.
That's wild.
Think about it. You're dissecting dense policy documents
Oh, okay, that's true.
on, say, capital gains tax.
Right.
Your understanding needs to be razor sharp to turn that into advice for policymakers.
That makes a lot of sense.
So, listener, if you're someone who geeks out over policy documents, this might be a good sign.
Definitely.
But it's not all about being a policy wonk, right?
Critical thinking is huge here.
Critical thinking seems just as important.
You're not just crunching numbers here.
Oh, okay. So more to it.
It's more about solving problems and considering different perspectives.
Oh, wow. So, like, what would be an example?
Figuring out the best course of action for a complex financial issue.
That makes sense.
Definitely not a plug-and-chug kind of career.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that constant learning the guide emphasizes
Right.
it's not just about getting that initial degree.
It's about always learning.
We're talking courses, conferences,
Yep.
staying updated on research.
Always.
Wow. So how do you even find the time?
You have to make time.
And think about the potential travel.
The travel is a great perk.
The guide lists organizations like the IMF and World Bank.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Imagine advising on international fiscal policies.
That would be amazing.
Okay, now that's a perk I wasn't expecting.
Me neither.
But let's be real, how does one actually break into this field?
Yeah, good question.
I'm seeing economics, finance, even law degrees mentioned.
A strong educational background is important.
For sure.
But what's interesting is how multidisciplinary the work is.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So your degree doesn't have to be in just one thing.
So lots of options.
For sure.
So you could say it's more about your passion and willingness to learn than any one specific degree.
Exactly.
But let's be real, landing that first job is all about experience.
And internships are key.
Okay, good. Because I was about to ask.
They really are so important.
What does a typical day even look like for someone just starting out?
Right.
Are you thrown into the deep end on day one?
Thankfully not.
Oh, good.
The example profile the guide provides paints a picture of a lot of assisting
Assisting, so like what?
Data analysis,
Okay,
drafting
that's
reports,
us.
sitting in on meetings, learning the ropes from more senior officers.
So paying your dues, soaking it all up.
Basically.
But imagine, listener, you're in those meetings,
Yeah.
contributing your analysis,
So cool.
and it's actually being used to shape real-world policies.
That's got to be incredibly rewarding.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's all about having a real impact.
That's what it's all about.
For sure.
But it's not all sunshine and roses, right?
Definitely not.
There are challenges,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
and we're going to dive into those right after this.
Sounds good.
So we've talked about the day-to-day and the path to get there,
Right, like what you actually do.
but let's talk career trajectory for a sec.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Because you're not just landing a job, you're hopefully launching a whole career.
And the guide lays out potential paths, both within and outside government.
Oh, cool. So options.
Yeah, like you could climb the ladder,
Okay, makes sense.
take on more responsibility, and maybe even lead a team of your own.
From analyst to policy superstar.
Exactly.
But what if you hit a point where you're like craving something different?
That's where those transferable skills come in.
What do you mean?
You've got this analytical mind, you understand complex financial systems.
Right.
You can communicate all of it clearly.
That's valuable anywhere.
Those are valuable assets in consulting, for example.
Right. Businesses need that financial know-how too.
Exactly.
Or nonprofits even.
For sure.
The guide mentioned international organizations too.
Oh, yeah. Your expertise could go global.
So many options.
That's the beauty of it.
And the emphasis on continuous learning.
Right. You never stop.
That's not just for staying ahead in the field. It's about opening doors to new ones.
Exactly.
The guide specifically recommends looking into advanced degrees.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so hit me with it. What kind of degrees?
Masters in public administration.
Okay.
Masters in economics.
Intense.
A little bit.
Yeah. But imagine the expertise you'd have.
Oh, yeah. It'd be huge.
I'm picturing someone mastering international tax law
For sure. That'd be amazing.
or becoming the go-to expert on municipal bonds.
That's the dream.
Right. But the guide doesn't just focus on formal education.
There's a lot more.
Like what else?
Workshops, professional development programs, staying updated on research.
So always learning new stuff.
Exactly. It's about being a lifelong learner no matter what.
I like that.
It's essential.
And let's be real, those professional associations the guide keeps mentioning,
Yes.
those are networking gold mines.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Connecting with other professionals is so important.
Why is that?
That's how you stay ahead of the curve.
Okay.
You learn about new opportunities
Okay.
and build relationships that can shape your career.
Networking is key.
It really is.
Okay, let's fast forward a bit.
Right.
You've landed the job.
You got your foot in the door.
You've got a few years of experience under your belt.
You've learned a lot.
What's next?
Getting that promotion.
Okay.
That's where those resume-boosting, salary-increasing certifications come in.
Certifications.
Yeah.
I've heard of those, but remind me.
Things like a certified public accountant, CPA,
Oh,
or a
yeah.
certified financial analyst, CFA.
Does sound familiar,
They're pretty common.
but I'm also seeing some that are specific to government.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Certified Government Financial Manager, CGFM,
Yep, that's a big one.
and Certified Government Auditing Professional, CGAP.
Those are great to have.
What makes them different?
Those are less about general finance and more about government-specific practices,
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
which is obviously important for this line of work.
Super important.
Exactly.
So, listener, if you're ambitious and you love a good challenge,
Keep those certifications in mind.
those certifications are definitely worth keeping on your radar.
Absolutely.
But even before all that,
you got to get the job first.
there's the interview.
The dreaded interview?
Everyone's favorite.
So fun.
Even with the skills and experience.
You got to nail the interview.
To actually sell yourself.
And luckily, RoleCatcher has a whole section on interview prep.
Okay, let's break it down.
All right.
What kind of questions should someone expect in a Fiscal Affairs Policy Officer interview?
It's a mix. Like what?
Some are about you.
Okay.
Like what inspired you to pursue this career?
Makes sense.
What are your strengths and weaknesses?
Classic.
So be ready to talk about why you love public service.
They're going to want to know.
And let's be honest,
It's not always glamorous.
for the nitty-gritty of fiscal policy.
Exact.
But then they get into the practical stuff.
For sure. Like how you stay updated on the latest regulations.
Okay.
How you would explain this complex tax policy to someone with no finance background.
The dreaded explain it to my grandma test.
Right.
Gotta love that one.
It's essential, though.
House.
They want to see you understand things,
Okay.
but also that you can communicate them clearly and concisely.
Makes sense.
No jargon allowed.
Which reminds me, the guide also mentions salary data.
Oh, yeah, the money.
Let's be real, that's important to know.
It is, and it's good to know your worth.
Exactly.
RoleCatcher provides salary ranges for different locations
Oh, wow.
and experience levels.
That's really helpful.
Super practical.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
A lot of info.
But RoleCatcher doesn't just leave you hanging with a guide.
They've got even more.
Their website sounds like a treasure trove.
Of resources.
Tons of good stuff.
Like, what all is there?
Think professional organizations, government agency links,
Okay.
industry publications.
Wow.
Plus, they have articles and blog posts on things like work-life balance,
Oh, wow. Interesting.
job satisfaction, the challenges of public service.
The human side of the job.
Exactly.
Because it's not just about the numbers.
It's not all about spreadsheets.
It's about finding a career that you like.
It's about finding something that aligns with your values and goals.
I like that.
For sure.
And that's what makes this deep dive so valuable.
It's not just about giving you the facts.
It's more than that.
It's about helping you figure out if this is the right fit for you.
Exactly.
And speaking of fit, there's one more crucial aspect of this career path we need to explore:
What's that?
ethics.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
Let's dive into that right after this. Okay, so we've talked about the skills and career paths, even the salary stuff.
Right. All the exciting stuff.
But there's this whole other side of Fiscal Affairs Policy Officer we need to talk about.
Ethics.
Definitely important.
It's something the guide touches on.
Yeah, they emphasize it.
And it's important because you're dealing with public funds
It's a big responsibility.
and sensitive economic data policies that really impact people's lives.
It's not just numbers on a screen.
Right. We're not just talking about balancing spreadsheets here.
No, your recommendations could influence tax policies,
Yeah, for sure.
government spending,
Huge impact.
even international development programs.
It's a lot.
There's a huge ethical responsibility that comes with that.
Absolutely.
So how does the guide lay that all out?
They emphasize objectivity, transparency, integrity.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
It means making recommendations based on solid info.
Okay, so no funny business.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
You're handling sensitive information, working with all these different people,
Right. So many stakeholders.
sometimes even dealing with confidential data.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a lot to keep track of.
For sure.
So what do you do stay up to date on all the latest ethics rules?
The guide actually recommends finding professional development opportunities.
Oh, cool. So like specific trainings and stuff.
Exactly.
That focus on ethics.
It's not just about regulations. It's about building that ethical mindset.
Right, like having a framework to make good decisions.
Exactly.
Because even with the best intentions, you could still run into some gray areas.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And knowing how to deal with those ethically is important.
Definitely.
So it's not just about avoiding doing something bad.
It's about being proactive.
Okay, I like that.
Speaking up if something seems off, even if it's uncomfortable.
That can be hard.
It can be, but it's important.
And it's about being a role model
Setting the standard.
for ethical conduct in your workplace.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
It's what employers want to see.
They want someone ethical they can trust.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
Big responsibility.
So listener, if this is your dream job,
Think about this stuff.
really take a moment to reflect on what's important to you.
Your values.
Do you prioritize integrity,
That's huge.
ethical decision-making?
It all matters.
Because those qualities are just as important as the technical skills.
Maybe even more important.
Wow, really?
They're the foundation for a successful career.
That's a great way to put it.
It's about more than just getting ahead.
So we're wrapping up this deep dive.
It's been fun.
What's the one thing you want our listener to take away?
That being a Fiscal Affairs Policy Officer is about more than just numbers.
It's about making a difference.
Tackling challenges, finding solutions, and doing the right thing.
It's about having a real impact.
And that's pretty inspiring.
It is so, listener, if you're up for the challenge,
If you're passionate about public service
and if you're ready for a career that's intellectually stimulating,
and ethically demanding,
this just might be the path for you.
go for it.
This has been an awesome deep dive.
Totally agree.
Until next time, happy exploring.